Well, in the 1980s, 70s, 80s, and beginning 90s, Cuba actually went out into other countries like, for example, Angola, and supported them militarily wise. And they did that also in El Salvador. They did it in quite a few places. However, their intentions were to make those countries communist, like they were. That was the intentions that Fidel Castro had. What was the other thing you said?
About military and political.
Oh, and they were both, military and politically. They went around the world trying to do that. One of the reasons, or one of the things that Castro politically went with Russia, it was because the U.S. always had its hand in Cuba. What that means is that whenever there was a problem in Cuba, they would be there. They even appointed a president for 6 months in Cuba one time during history. So when you have another country that's bigger, putting so much of their hands into your country, what do? You go to the opposite. So I'm not saying that it was the best thing to do, but that's what Castro decided to do, to stay away from the U.S. And obviously when Russia went down, they actually became, they broke up and no more communism. Then Cuba remained the only one, next to China and North Korea.
What do you think will happen to Cuba after Castro dies?
I think that Cuba will become pretty much like we are in the U.S. I think the whole thing will end about communism. I think people are fed up in Cuba with communism. They're tired of getting the food rationed. They can only eat what the government gives them to eat. They're tired of not being able to go into places where they want to go to. And they're basically prisoners in their own country. Basically, Cubans are not allowed to go to anything that's tourist, unless they work there. And very few can work in those areas. For example, when I was there 4 years ago, I ended up going to a big resort with caves underneath the resort, beautiful. And we had to have a passport saying that we were from outside the country, because if not, they wouldn't let us stay there. Yeah. Another example is when I went to the biggest ice cream shop in Havana. There were lines that went around and around and around, I don't know how many times. And the whole shop is about a block long. I came and I started looking around, somebody grabbed me by the arm, took me and sat me down, and I had ice cream. In the meantime, people were waiting there, Cuban people, for hours and hours and hours in the sun, and they had to wait their turn. And when I talk about me, it was me and some other teachers that came with me. We were all taken in, sat down, and had our ice cream. It was terrible. I never went back when I saw that. And another example was, for example, to go to Varadero, which is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. One of the beautiful beach, that's the one beach. It costs about $4 to go over the bridge to go into Varadero. Now they make between $6 and $8 a month, so they will never be able to afford even to go back there. And even if they can make it there, they will be thrown out. They wouldn't be allowed to stay there.
And my last question. What is your favorite memory about growing up in Cuba?
My favorite memory? Okay. I guess it was, I don't know. I'm trying to, I guess it was racing my own animals. I used to race little banties for show. Ever since I was 6, 7 years old, I was racing them. And I did everything. I fed them, I did everything with them. And I guess it was the idea of doing that on my own that is one of my fondest moments. Because even when I left them with someone. When I left, they were little. They were not to be eaten. They were for show. And that's one of my fondest memories. Also, being with my grandmother. Once I came to this country, I was never able to see her.